You'll never believe what I caught this walleye on. Except for, it's basically what I throw 90% of the time, and that's a Ned Rig. Oh man. And I've probably caught more walleyes on a Ned Rig in my life than every other bait combined. So obviously I've thrown it a lot, and I think today what we're gonna do is give you a little rapid fire Ned Rig walleye tip with stuff that I wish I would have known or been told when I first started throwing them specifically for walleyes. Tip number one, you need to get confidence in it by throwing it on an already good bite. My recommendation would be to go out, and once you're catching fish, whether it's a jig and a minnow, slip bobbers and leeches, whatever you're doing, if you're on a good bite, and I know it's hard to switch things up when you're catching, but that's the time to throw out something to get your confidence in it, because you know you're around biting fish. And once you have that one banner day, or not even a banner day, you throw it in there and you catch a few fish and it's like, man, they're eating this thing just like they were a jig and a minnow. That's the type of day you need to get the confidence to throw it all the time. And if you're curious, there is a CrushCity Ned BLT in there somewhere. Jeez. Because I promise you, they chew it. Gain your confidence, throw it on a day where you're already catching fish and already know fish are around. Not all Ned Rig plastics are created equal. One of the things that makes it unique is floating properties that keep that bait buoyant, that tail up off bottom, gives it a lot of action. Whether you're fishing in the middle of the water column, helps keep it up, or on bottom. But the buoyant plastics just get more bites. One of those is this CrushCity Ned BLT, which is floating, durable, and has the TPE that, let go, stretches right back. But I've just found that you can get bit throwing a traditional 4-inch stick or whatever your favorite little short plastic is, but if it's a floating plastic, it's gonna outfish it 2-3 to 1 for sure. Having your Ned Rig rigged perfectly straight on that jig head is gonna get you more bites, it's gonna look more natural in the water, and if it's cockeyed at all, you're gonna get like a weird twist about it. No bueno. One way to make sure it's perfectly rigged on straight every time, take that jig head, hold it flush where it should be hooked, and then eye up where that hook should poke out. So like right here, I put my thumbnail exactly where that hook should be poking out. Grab a little chunk of that plastic, just give it a little tear or a little scuff, and now you know exactly where to feed that hook through nice and straight, and you've got your exit point on that hook shank. And now, before I push it all the way up, or pull it all the way up, I'm just gonna give it one little drop of super glue, and I'm telling you, with this TPE Ned BLT, you can catch 100 walleyes on this bait before you need to replace it with a drop of super glue like that. Oh, I got a tip for you. Always let that bait crash down to bottom before you fish it. And I don't care if they're suspended fish, if you're in 4 feet of water, if you're in 20 feet of water, let that bait fall all the way down to bottom before you fish it, because even if they're up in the water column, they will chase it down just like this one did. I think he was middle of the column and chased it straight down to bottom and then ate it. And the funny thing is, Ned Rigs were originally designed to be fished in the middle of the column, suspended. But for walleyes, I always let it hit bottom and then start working it. And no matter where they're at in the column, they munch it. One of my all-time favorite colors, the CrushCity Ned BLT in Gobi. It can look like a perch, it can look like a shiner, it can look like a crayfish, it just can look like everything and catches fish everywhere in clear water. This guy go. Yeah, everywhere. There's lots of different ways to work a Ned rig. My all-time favorite, and something that I don't even want to talk about, is the bop. Tiny little bop, 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 bop. And I'm basically slowly dragging it on bottom. And you see that tip just barely bop, 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 bop. These have TPE material, it's a floating plastic, and I'm barely moving, but that tail is just kicking and dancing. And you can fish, you can swim them, you can give them bigger rips, whatever, but I would say 95% of the walleyes I've ever caught on a Ned rig have been doing the bop, 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 and just keeping that thing on bottom, but letting the tail kick until you feel bump. I think it's one of those walleyes, but I'm throwing a bass bait, so I don't really know. It is a walleye! Good one. You can actually see the bait this time. Just barely. That's a green pumpkin head. Always make sure, just like anything, you're playing up with your colors, and that doesn't just go for the plastic, it goes for the jig head too. I'm throwing a really natural green pumpkin today, but there are some days where switching to a bright chartreuse head and still a natural color Ned rig, but like that bright chartreuse head can be the deal. So it's just like trolling cranks, whatever you're doing, have each person in the boat throwing something a little different to figure out what they want that day. Today, they want the au naturel. There's lots of great colors to play around with and figure out what they're wanting that day. Like I mentioned, Gobi's a great all-around color because it can look like anything. Another one of my favorites is perch. I don't think I need to explain it any more than that. But especially for around those weed line fish, this color just gets it done. Retie those leaders often when throwing a Ned rig. One, because you're dragging it along bottom, hitting rocks, zebra mussels and stuff. Two, you're gonna catch so many dang fish and they eat it like that, where your line is flossing every walleye. I'm gonna retie that one. .73 medium light fast. The best all-around finesse walleye action and power, no matter what you're throwing. But killer with Ned rigs. Same with line. 10-pound 832 with a 8 or 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. And you can do any walleye fishing. That's a better one. If I could hold on to him. That was classy. Freaking engulfed it. But yeah, 10-pound 832 with a 8-foot, 8 or 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. Works for Ned rigs, works for everything. Let's get him back. That was so sloppy. All right, another important thing. Yes, you could use any jig head with a Ned rig plastic and catch fish. But if you want to catch more and land more of the bites you get, using jig heads that are specifically designed for Ned rigs actually make a big difference. This one's a VMC Ned Rig Jig. Bunch of little things that make it special. 90-degree line tie, the shape of the head to make that bait kick up, the hook, it's a little hybrid wide gap, thinner wire hook, which is great for setting the hook with these medium light rods, but still it's a stout hook, doesn't bend out. Just every little thing about it. The conical keeper, designed for plastics like TPE plastics and to keep them up. So a jig head that is designed for that style of fishing, it's not necessary, but you're gonna catch more fish. My favorite all-around size, 3/16 ounce. I'll go down to an 1/8 ounce when I'm fishing in 4 to 7 feet of water, or if it's really calm, out to about 10. 3/16 most of the time. Days where it's really windy, when it's rolling and blowing, I will go all the way up to 1/4. Or if I'm fishing in that 25 to 28, 29 foot of water and trying to drag on bottom, I'll use 1/4 ounce. Oh my gosh. You want a tip? Just throw the Ned Rig already. Just throw it. It's outrageous. Oh. Throw the freaking Ned Rig. Can't even see that bait.